What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with another Destiny 2 news video, and in this one Bungie give another developer insight for codenamed Frontiers, and they talk about something called Solo Ops. This is going to be a new piece of content which targets solo players, or more casual play for the game in general, in the form of missions that are easy for lone players to jump into, quick to complete, and fun to replay. And Bungie additionally talk about reward scaling for this and challenge, so could be an interesting new component for solo players, and we'll discuss it in the video today. As always, if you enjoy this one, a rating below really helps us on the channel. But now, let's get into it. And so Bungie say this week's topic is the new Solo Ops activity category. Solo Ops are short missions that are easy for lone players to jump into, quick to complete, and fun to replay. And for a basic overview here, they say Solo Ops are 10-minute missions that can be completed by single players or fire teams. They are low commitment options that still allow you to use challenge customization to make progress towards better gear. And they say as well they're being built for their experiences to stay fresh across repeated plays. To get it into it, they describe the problem space initially, and they say over the last few years, we've built on the promise of Destiny as a game where you can come together with other Guardians and enjoy the game together. We've built a lot of new match-made activities, from Battlegrounds to Onslaught, and we've rolled out features like Fireteam Finder to make it easier than ever to group up with other people. And we've watched the community come together like never before, which is great, but sometimes you just want to jump in and play for 10 or 20 minutes and feel like it was worth your time. Right now, your only options for doing so either put you in direct competition with other players like the Crucible or Gambit, or they can feel like you're in a race to the finish line against your own fireteam members in things like strikes or battlegrounds. And they say as well, the activities right now which are best suited for solo players are time consuming, and story missions can take half an hour or more to complete. Lost sectors require you to go into the destination to play them, and jumping into multiplayer activities as a solo player, for example soloing a dungeon, can be stressful and take even more time than the activity would with a fire team, and we've identified a gap in our offerings, short activities that lone players can take at their own pace. So in terms of the solution, Solo Ops are activities aimed at short playtimes and manageable for solo players. They'll be launched from the portal and have a target base playtime of 10 minutes. Each Solo Ops activity emphasizes the fun of Destiny's combat action gameplay, presenting players with straightforward objectives that focus on gunplay. And solo op missions aren't intended to be intense tests of buildcrafting prowess or thumb skill. Instead, we want them to focus on the joy of playing in Destiny's action sandbox in a way that's easy to jump into and play in just a few minutes. So these are going to be sort of almost like featured weekly story missions to an extent. Obviously, there's going to be a deeper connection with the reward and kind of progression elements of the game and actually making it worthwhile to run them. They also talk about reward scaling, and they say Solo Ops will support scoring and challenge customization, like many of the other activities in the game, and Bungie previously spoke about challenge customization, where we're going to be able to apply various different modifiers and difficulty components to actually improve the rewards of these activities. And they say as such, they will allow players to make incremental progress towards better and more powerful gear, and support customizing the difficulty of the activity with a wide variety of modifiers. You'll still want to play well in Solo Ops activities, as score will contribute to the quality of rewards, but we're trying to construct these missions so that getting a good score is a matter of moving, shooting, and looting, rather than being determined by what loadout and build you bring into them. And so it doesn't necessarily sound like this will feature sort of hardcore endgame content. There'll still be that stuff, whether you're solo or with a fire team, but as Bungie outlined, there's much more focus on sort of casual play and respecting casual playtime in the game. Then in terms of mission variability, they say another goal of Solo Ops is to create activities with higher variability between plays, and since you'll be playing these missions as a way of making progress towards better gear, we're trying to make sure that they stay fresh for longer and are making them less predictable in what content you'll see. So for example, at this time we're aiming to have each mission come with a variant of at least 2 combatant factions, one each with a unique objectives associated with it, and Solo Ops missions will sometimes come with optional goals that only present themselves once you're in the activity, like the presence of treasure goblins or passageways to secret rooms opening where they are normally closed. And interestingly, they say they're also scattering some random treasure chests throughout the activities, and finding them will get you a bonus to your final score. So that sounds kind of cool, and they say another piece of activity tech they've been working to build for these missions is a dynamic enemy spawning system. This system runs behind the scenes, monitoring how well you're doing, how long it's been since you've been in combat, and how close you're getting to your objective, and then spawns squads of enemies when the system determines that you need to be challenged. Unlike our other activities, where enemy spawn cadence and locations are often very scripted, solo missions will spawn enemies at unpredictable times from places where you may not expect them to be. So that's an interesting way of approaching sort of difficulty and scaling these pieces of content based on the way that players are actually engaging with the game and their performance in the game. And they also say, in terms of visiting exciting locations, since solo ops are part of the core game that is free to play for everyone, we also wanted to take advantage of the fact that across the game there are many locations that are either not used in free content or are underused despite being a fun place to play. A lot of beautiful, exciting spaces play host to only single story missions, and players have no reason to go to those places outside of that mission. Some, like the Saltwork area on EDZ, are currently entirely unused, and these are also uniquely Destiny spaces, and we think Solo Ops is a great venue for going back and visiting some of these places that may not have gotten as much attention as their craftsmanship deserves. Solo Op missions will take you into spaces you might have visited before, but the new objectives and dynamic enemy spawn system help to make the experience feel both fresh and familiar. And for many players, solo ops missions might be the first time that you go to those locations, and we think that everyone should have a chance to experience these iconic spaces. Overall, we hope that solo ops missions will be a good activity for players who only have a short amount of time to play, or who prefer to play by themselves, or are looking for a lower intensity way to revel in the Destiny sandbox in general. So again, it sounds like a pretty interesting concept here. Largely, it does seem focused on pretty casual play, like we said, but of course we're going to still have various endgame modes in the game, so it might be that some players kind of mix and match between these two components. You know, if you're jumping on after work or something and you've only got a short period of time, but you want to do some leveling, solo ops missions might be a good way to sort of get a guaranteed reward. But on the weekend, when you've got a few hours, it might be that you want to spend some time solo in a dungeon still. There's kind of a spectrum there of potential benefit for different types of players. Also, I would say this seems like Bungie are paying a bit more attention to kind of new players and the onboarding element of Destiny 2, and ensuring that free-to-play folks have enough stuff to actually keep engaged with. So I guess it's kind of multifaceted, but in terms of frequently asked questions, they say, can you only play them solo, or can they be played with a fire team? And Bungie clarifies solo ops activities will accommodate up to 3 players. Because we never want to tell you that you can't play with your friends, we're also working on a system to automatically scale up the difficulty of encounters based on your fireteam size. However, if you want to play with other people, fireteam ops are going to offer the more efficient path to getting better gear. So that's an interesting point as well. And then in terms of whether solo ops will support matchmaking, they say no. If you want to play with other people, fireteam ops is going to be the way to go. And then in terms of whether solo ops will include champions, banes, and specific modifiers, they say we haven't locked down any specific sets of modifiers that we're going to support in solo ops yet. We can't just use the same modifiers as, say, strikes, because we're really aiming at a tight experience that solo players can enjoy, and we want to make sure the modifiers we allow don't push the missions away from that experience. But we do plan to support Banes, as we think they're offering an exciting way to increase the variety of experiences that you have across multiple plays. So what do you guys think of this? Of course, it's quite bare bones in this format because we don't actually really know what these pieces of content will be. We've got sort of a loose description, but keeping in mind that the challenge will scale and there'll be the options to set different challenges, complete multiple objectives, treasure chests, and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's a distinct benefit potentially for solo and more casual players of the game, but that isn't to say that there isn't a benefit for existing players, right? I guess it will come down to rewards. That'll be a big component, but also who knows, if we were to up the challenge in some of these missions, perhaps they would actually be pretty difficult pieces of content for more endgame focused players who want to go solo into them. So sounds like there are a lot of possibilities here, and Bungie are kind of in the earlier stages of developing this, but probably something that solo players are going to welcome in general. So we'll see how it pans out, but that's the update for today. Sounds like a good one, or at least a good component to have in the game. Give us your thoughts in the comment section. If you've enjoyed the video, a rating below really helps us out as well. And get subscribed to the channel if you want to be kept up to date with more Destiny content. Otherwise though, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.